You were born free, and it's time to remember who you were meant to be. You were born to rule, and it's time for you to shine all the light inside of you.
Welcome, everyone. Of course, my name is Crystal Andrus Morissette. For those who haven't met me before, welcome. I'm going to be your teacher for the next 4 months, for the rest of your life. No, I'm only kidding. But you know, I've been doing this a long time, and it's always so exciting when I see women who, Katie, I just saw Katie come on. Katie's waving. Katie, we just had a chat with Crystal. Katie's in this book, one of the books that you're going to be reading. I tell a story about Katie in Transcendent Beauty right here in this book. We're going to be reading this book at one point. And it was amazing because Katie just came on, chat with Crystal, and Katie and I have not. Katie, can I embarrass you and unmute your line? Are you sure? I know. Totally putting you on the spot. Katie's like, no, really, I didn't plan on that. Oh, well, Crystal's going to do it anyways. No, I'm only kidding. I will never do that unless you say, yes, it's okay. Katie, can you unmute your own line?
Yes.
There you go. Katie, I'm all lit up and you're got the light behind you.
I know, I have terrible lighting.
I'm going to give you all a vanity tip. If you want to look good on camera, get the light on your face. Like when you're outside and you're getting a photo taken, always just find the sun. Oh, there, take it. Anyways, so we can't really see Katie clearly, but Katie and I had a great chat with Katie came on our chat with Crystal this last Friday, because I do it on the first Friday of every month. Katie unmuted her line to do some coaching. And as soon as I heard her voice, I was like, I know this voice. Katie, I've done coaching with you. When did we do coaching? 2005. Yeah. Can you imagine 15 years ago, Katie's been in my life doing coaching with me. She came to retreat at my home in 2006, this same home, where I have been doing this women's empowerment work long before anyone was talking about women's empowerment work. And I laugh because I say, how did I know? How did I know what was going to happen? And here we are. So Katie, it's so extraordinary to see you after 14 years.
Yeah, it's so great to see you too.
We're getting older. No, you're not getting older at all.
It might be the poor lighting.
I'm only teasing. It's great to see you. What I think the good news is that for any of you that are new to my world, I'm not going anywhere. I've been doing this for 25 years. I opened my first women's only health club when I was only 21 years old, called Crystal's Health and Fitness. I'm turning 50 in 3 months. And I don't know, something's gone off. The 50 alarm bells of like, ding, 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 stepping into my power in a whole new way. Didn't even know that I was powerful before now. So I'm wanting to pass that energy on to you. The excitement of this work shows you that the older you get, the better you get. The bolder you get, the brighter you get. The smarter you get, the wiser you get. The more empowered you get. And the more that you start to step into this really important realization of how much you matter. You matter. Your life matters. Your needs matter. Your dreams matter. Your wisdom matters. And this is the type of career that the older you get, the more money you make. It's a good one. Been taught like 30, you're over the hill. That's why I decided around 30, I'm not just going to be a fitness girl, because that's how I started off. Around 30, I was like, I don't want to have a short lifespan here with my career. So I started to shift over, because I also started to realize, and Katie, don't worry, I'm coming back to you. I also started to realize that all the work that I was doing in the first 10 years of my career, because I started young, and I had children young, and I gained a lot of weight in my pregnancy. So I have those 220-pound pictures of me. And back then I really thought, I'm just going to help women understand emotional eating, understand how emotions play such a huge part in our lives, how we are different than men. Boy, aren't we? And that's not an anti-man thing. That's just we're just a different thing. I'm turning 50. I'm wondering when menopause is going to come. Like everybody goes, I don't know, it starts around 40. I'm like, really? Because I'm turning 50 and we're just still in full mode, high sex drive. When's this thing going to kick in? I'm waiting for it because it hasn't happened yet. But you know, I certainly see the difference between me and my husband. I'm getting smarter. I'm getting wiser. And my brain is still, you know, what's really amazing about women's brains that scientists have now discovered, this is science, our brains stay malleable. And that's why there's a saying called, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like, what's the name for a male dog? We all know what the name for the female dog is, but what's the name for a male dog? Katie, do you know what a male dog is?
I don't.
A squire. Is it a squire? You can't teach a squire new tricks. Well, you could teach a bitch new tricks. No problem. No, I'm only kidding. Okay, you got to laugh at me. You're going to have a bit of a sense of humor with me because I'm a teacher, but I also have a good sense of humor. So Katie, 15 years ago, you were working in oncology at the hospital with cancer patients.
Yep.
It was heavy then.
Mm-hmm.
And where are you now? Are you still in the oncology working?
I am. I'm working with breast cancer patients and ovarian cancer patients. When you and I worked together before, I was working in hematology, like leukemia, lymphoma, and bone marrow transplant, which was really a lot as well. But
yeah,
something just came to me that I was like, I want to do something else. I want to add in something else. And
yeah. And
always been on my mind. So
you're 45. I'm saying your age because, ladies, this thing that we have where people go, like, I ask everybody their age. I don't know. Is that a rude question? I'm not very politically correct. I just go, do you mind me asking how old you are? Yeah. You know why? Because you're wise, or you're beautiful, or you're, oh, that's amazing. You should own your age. Own it. Like, I actually like to tell people I'm older than I am. I've been doing that since I was 21. When I opened my first business and I was only 21, I felt like if people actually know how young I am, I won't be respected. So I just told everybody I was 30 and they believed it. So I've been 30 when I was 21. And then when I was about 33, I told people I was 40. And then when I was 40, I tell people I was 45. My husband always go, you're not 50 yet. I've been telling people I was 50 for the last couple of years. So I actually am finally getting really, I'm like, should I say I'm 55? No, I'm not lying anymore because 50 is old enough to be smart. I'm finally old enough. I'm finally a grown up turning 50. So you're 45 and you're saying there has to be something else more. What? I'm totally putting you on the spot. What?
Yeah.
You, brilliant woman who works in the hospital. Say, I want something else.
Yeah, I want something that speaks to me. I like what I do, and I think it was something I heard on one of your other calls. I can't remember. I think it was Abigail that said she liked being a lawyer, but she didn't love being a lawyer.
Right.
And I have felt like that. I like being a nurse, but what I love doing is talking to people, and oncology always spoke to me because it's just you're delving more into people's lives rather than just like medications. So
it's interesting, Katie, because around 30, same thing. I loved talking to women. I would be in the gym and we'd end up sitting on a bench press. And instead of doing the chest press, we'd talk the whole hour and we'd have the most incredible conversations. And I started realizing it's not about the bench press. It's not about the leg press. It's not about the broccoli. It's not about the frickin' broccoli. It's about something so much deeper. And that's when I started merging into this field that's opened up now where we're understanding emotions and the impact of the full range of emotions, how we feel, and how certain emotions, I would never call emotions bad, ever. But I do know that certain emotions, when we feel them, can create a butterfly in your stomach. You can feel like you're going down the big hill of a roller coaster with anxiety over something, and there's nothing maybe even really happening in your outer world, but you've told something, you read a certain word, you hear a certain sound, something triggers you, and your body starts to go into a state of fight or flight. I was hyper vigilant for most of my life. It made me highly productive, but also highly vigilant. I was so tapped into people's emotions, and I could feel people's emotions. I'm going to do a mute. Katie, I'm muting your line just because I'm muting everyone as people are coming on. So I'm going to unmute you in a second if we are going to continue talking, but I'm going to dive in because what I learned young was I learned how to compartmentalize. Almost like I learned, I almost make it like a little bit of a joke, like I was like an ice cube tray. And I had all these areas of my life, and as long as they all stayed divided and separated, I was highly functioning. Like I could just stay frozen. I could have like marriage, and then I could have like children, and I could have, oh, divorce. Okay, now how do we not let divorce hurt children? Okay, we'll just keep them all, everything compartmentalized. But what happened if I took the ice cube tray out of the freezer and it unthawed, and then things started spilling into each other? New stepdad's trying to tell my kids what to do. How do I deal with that? Mother is gone off the deep end. How do I deal with that? How do I be highly successful, but all of a sudden the traumas of my past are coming up in my 40s of all times? Like, what the hell's happening in my 40s? I'm so highly successful because I've been able to compartmentalize it all. I can compartmentalize abuse. I compartmentalize sexual abuse. I even had a brain that was so brilliant. It knew how to block things out. Just block them out. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. Don't feel it. But all of a sudden, high success in my 30s, 3 book deals with Hay House, traveling the world with Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer, and opening up for Dr. Phil. And I was on stages where 5,000-6,000 people were in attendance, and I was just killing it. And it never occurred to me that I might need healing. It literally never occurred to me that I might need some healing of my heart too. And that's when I started having my own dark nights of the soul, as they call them. And if you've never had one, I don't wish it upon anybody. But if you've had them, you already know what I'm talking about. And those dark nights can seem so dark. They feel like the black hole in the universe that will just swallow you up. And so I just kept burning the candle at both ends. I just stay brighter, 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 brighter. I'll just keep burning the candles until finally I compressed, contracted, as I would say it in my book, The Emotional Edge. This book that got me on Oprah.com 3 times. You know, when you get the call, like, you're going to be featured on Oprah. You actually think Oprah's sprinkling fairy dust on you and life will never be the same. And then you realize, oh, you still have to keep working, and you still have to keep doing, and you still have to keep at it, and you still have to keep showing up. You mean it doesn't just work that way? But it was an affirmation. And what I learned is we have these, I'm going to call them God winks, but this is not a religious program at all. It's just little God winks, little nudges that go, hey, you're on track. And our body is this incredible truth secret keeper. Our body is this incredible container that contains every story. It contains every painful experience. It holds on to all of it until you learn, someone teaches you how to finally go in and start accessing, pull the ice cube tray out in a really safe place. And then one by one, I'm teaching you this. We're not doing your therapy right now. I'm teaching you this. One by one, to be able to start accessing those different hidden compartments and gleaming the gold out of them, pulling the wisdom out of them, the lesson out of them, and then letting go of the rest. And not being afraid, not having that same level of fear, like, oh my God, it's going to be a tidal wave. If I open up this Pandora's box, it's going to be a tidal wave. Well, the truth is, mine opened like a Pandora's box in my early 40s. I wasn't planning on saying all this, but it was so bizarre that I had helped so many women deal with sexual abuse. I'd helped so many women, and I have had women, I've been doing this for a long time now, and I had women who said, and it's not to put down any other, because there's a million different healing modalities, and I'm a hodgepodge of healing modalities. I've done a little bit of this and a little bit of that and something of that, and that helped me in that, and didn't get a lot out of that. And I kind of put them all together, and what was I saying? Oh, it just, of all things, was sitting with my 14-year-old daughter. She's now 24, turning 24, sitting with her. She was 14 at the time, sitting on my bed watching Dr. Phil. And it was an episode where a young girl was about 18 years old, and she'd been sexually not assaulted, but it doesn't matter. But this was the point that my brain actually went, but she wasn't sexually assaulted. Like, why is she so distraught? She only had a peeping Tom. Like, I didn't say that out loud, but in my own brain, this girl was just traumatized because she'd been watched in the shower, and it was really traumatic. And something in my own brain went, I was raped at 14. And I'm so sorry I was dragged behind a tree outside at night, behind bushes, and raped. And how did that had to have deeply affected me. And for the first time in my life, I knew his name. I only knew his name. And for the first time in my life, I went on Facebook and put his name in, and up popped his picture. And I wrote him a message right on the spot. I actually have it. And I just wrote something like, in his pseudonym, he actually had a in bracket name called Biff Malibu. Imagine what we're dealing with. Biff Malibu, eh? Biff Malibu, you probably don't remember me. You should Google my name now. I'm an international women's empowerment coach. I basically just told him, like, you took my virginity, you took my innocence, you caused me so much suffering. Shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. And I hit the send button. And all of a sudden I saw his Facebook pictures go down. Everything just started collapsing. And I was like, oh, you know me. And I hope that and who knew the Me Too movement was going to come 5 years later, and women were going to start telling stories. And I didn't do it for that reason. I just literally was like, I matter. I need to name it and claim it and grieve it and release it. And I started to write. And when I say Dark Night of the Soul, okay, if I wasn't Crystal Andrus, that had already written 4 best-selling books at that time, someone would have checked me in somewhere. Seriously. I wrote for 7 days. For 7 days, I wrote. I couldn't sleep. I cried. I heaved. I wrote my memoir. It's never been released. It probably never will be. But it doesn't matter. I told my story, even if just to myself. And the memories were flooding back, and I was vomiting and heaving. And I mean, literally my husband would come in, and I wouldn't be like, cry. I'd just be tears running down my face, and I just kept writing and kept writing. And suddenly I had this, it was like an opening. And I finally started doing the work that I told other women and helped other women do for 15 years. And I started doing it with me. In 2009, I launched the S.W.A.T Institute. It was about 10 years ago, right around this time, 10 years ago. And I said, I'm going to build an empowerment coaching certification for women that is the Harvard of coaching programs. I'm not going to leave anything out. And I'm going to go to my mentors, Louise Hay, and I'm going to go to Marianne Williamson and Christiane Northrup, and all these women who I'd been like traveling around with. And you have to realize, like, at the time, before that, I'm like 34 getting my first book deal. Louise Hay is like 85. And she's just like, I'm like her granddaughter. And, but I was just this little, like, to me, I had the imposter syndrome. I had the fraud complex. I had they're going to wake up and realize I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Someone at some point is going to wake up and realize I don't know what I'm doing. And I remember Reed Tracy from Hay House saying to me, everybody's got it when they first start. Everybody thinks, do I have the right to be doing this? Am I empowered enough to be doing this? Who am I? And I always think of that amazing Marianne Williamson. Was it Marianne Williamson? Who are you not to be? For you are a child of God. And you're shrinking to make other people feel is not enlightened. Your deepest fear is not that you're inadequate. Your deepest fear is that you're powerful beyond measure. It is your light, not your darkness, that most frightens you. So I reached out to Louise Hay and said, I'm going to build a Harvard of Coaching Schools. You in? Yep, I'm in, Crystal. I actually got to have access to her work, You Can Heal Your Life, and did some interviews with Louise for students. And I got Marianne Williamson, and I got a bunch of them. In any case, I built a program back in 2009. We call it our Master Empowerment Coach Certification. And I didn't realize how comprehensive it was going to be. I just built it. Like, I'm just going to build everything that I could ever dream of that a woman would need to be able to be empowered. And we started signing women up, and the ones with PhDs were moving through it. The Olympic champions were moving through it. But a lot of women that hadn't been in school in a long time were like, this is, whoa, it's unbelievable, but it might take me 10 years to get through it. So Izabela was one of my students who is our professor of coaching. At that time, she already had her master's degree in law. She already had her master's degree in psychology. She went through my program, completed it in 3 years. And at the end of it said, I need to work for you. And so together we built the program you're doing right now. We said, let's take the very best of coaching and fast track it into a shorter program where you don't have to learn everything about everything that's empowerment, but let's really fast track it to give you exactly what it takes, the interventions and processes to shift someone through those emotions, because what we know is that emotions are also a form of energy. You know, don't you feel certain things like and I don't want to get too scientific or too woo-woo, some might call it, out of the gate, but haven't you ever felt certain times in your life, like if you're a mother or a grandmother, the first time you hold your baby or your grandbaby and you feel this overwhelming love and it feels light and it feels joyful and you feel like, oh, do you remember that feeling? Some of you, have you ever recently fallen in love? It could be your third marriage. It's fine. I'm just kidding. Some of you are like, falling in love, that's been a long time. Well, like, or different times. Have you ever I see Philomena painted a picture. You're in the flow. You're up all night and the energy is moving through you and you just feel like, I'm channeling the divine. That's high resonating. It's very loving, joyous energy. And that energy, actually, we know scientifically, vibrates really fast. It moves fast. And when we say, what does energy mean? Just stay with me on this. We're going to get to that in this book and this book that we're going to be studying. But I'm going to tell you something, just an inside scoop. If you can't get access to any of the books, you don't actually need them. We're going to teach you everything. Everything that you need, you're going to get. Those books are added additional meat and potatoes that will help. So if you don't have books yet, don't freak out, because you don't actually need there's not one assignment that's like the only answer you're going to get it from is by reading that book. So what we know is that if you were to take your hand, every single one of you on the call in the class, if you were to take your hand and put it under a microscope and we were to zoom down on it, you would see that the top layer is cellular. You're made of skin. It's your biggest organ in your body. We're made up of cells, right? So that's why we say things like drink your water, because water has cells. So we are physical, like cellular, but we are also, if we continue that microscope to zoom deeper into each cell, those cells are made up of little tiny bundles of energy called an atom. If you go back to biology class in grade 9, you learn biology and you learn like we're cellular, but if you kept zooming down, we're made up of atoms. Do you remember biology class, science class? Do you remember that? And we're made up of all these atoms. Why didn't anyone in science class in grade 9 say, did you know that those atoms, well, we did, but no one put it together. Those atoms are 99.99999% empty. So you are essentially 99.99999% empty. We can't see anything in them. But what's inside them is this little vibrating energy. So yes, to the naked eye, when I see you and you see me, we see this bundle of energy that's crystal. I'm actually this bundle of vibrating energy, but your energy processing eyes, that's what eyes do. They process energy, converts it and goes, there's crystal. Well, there's Philomena. And when Philomena just painted a picture, her energy is very high vibing. And it isn't about putting makeup on. It's just this joyous energy that is divinely moving through her. And then there's also times where Crystal's sad. Crystal's feeling, because we're human beings, because something happens. And we're hurt, or we're sad, or we're scared, or someone says something that triggers us and makes us suddenly start remembering being 14 and you're triggered. And you start replaying a story in your head that tells you who you are is not enough, or who you are. And your energy literally slows down to meet that emotion. So when we talk about emotions and energy, just think the slower emotions feel heavier in your body. They're not bad. They're just heavier. They're just slower. So I started to learn around the age of 30, I can't keep telling these women who are carrying shame and guilt, illegitimate shame and guilt, things that were done to them. You just need to eat more broccoli. Because the energy is just slow. Do you know how hard it is to exercise when your energy is really heavy? I'm exercising because I hate myself. I have to exercise because... And I just realized at that point, forget it. Let's just go talk. Let's talk about how you're feeling. Let's change the way you're telling yourself this story. What if this isn't your shame to carry? What if you should write that mother a letter that you're never going to send and tell him how much he hurt you, what he did to you, send it to me. Let's do a burning ritual together. This was the stuff I started doing. What do you mean you feel guilty? What do you mean you feel guilty going to the gym at night? I know, I just feel really bad. I had to put the kids in daycare all day, and then I get off work, and then I come to the gym, and I'm just so fat, and I feel like a loser, and I'm frumpy, and the kids never see me, and I just feel awful. And okay, the last thing I want you to do right now is come to the gym. Okay, I'm gonna meet you over at your house at 5 o'clock. We're gonna go for a walk with the kids in the little cart thing. I forget what you call that damn thing. It's been so long. In the little stroller. And you got 2 strollers for 2 kids. I'll push one, you push one, and we're just gonna walk and talk. And the weight started coming off because it wasn't done out of self-loathing. And I can't even imagine saying to a woman that's in that place, you should feel guilty. In fact, I'm gonna make you feel even guiltier. You ain't what? No. I just said, let's forget about food. Let's forget about all that stuff. Let's just start to look at your emotions, and let's imagine we could tell the same story through 20 different versions, and every one of them would be true. That's why when people say, but it's the truth. Well, it's the truth according to your perspective. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So you could tell yourself the story, I'm a loser because look at, I've gained 100 pounds. Or you could tell the story through the lens of blame. I gained all that weight because I had his kids and he brought me chocolate bars every day. It's not my fault. You could also tell the story through the lenses of sorrow. This isn't what it should have been. Could have been, ought to have been. I was meant to be. You could tell the story through fear. What if I never lose weight? What if I never lose weight and then I never get, and then I get really sick and then I die really young and I'm not here for my kids and I'm not. You could tell the stories through desire. I just want to look like her. You know, if I could just look like her, if I could just lose the weight and I could look like her, I'd probably feel really good at myself. You could tell the story through the lenses of anger. I am so pissed off that I got these genes. Everyone in my family is fat. All the women in my family are fat. I'm so angry. You could tell the story through the lenses, through the story of pride and dignity. I'm perfectly fine with who I am. Who are you to tell me I should lose weight? You could tell the stories through the lens. Do you get what I'm trying to say? There's a lot of different ways to tell that same story. And to that woman, if I were to say, well, that's not the truth, that's my truth, that's what I feel. Well, that's what you feel based on the energy you're in right now. So when someone comes to me and says, I'm leaving my husband, I say, okay, wait, let's get you in a better place. Don't do anything major until we get you into the best place possible, energetically, emotionally, the way you're telling the story, the way you're looking at it. Because when you change the way you look at people, the people you look at change. And when you change the way you look at yourself, you change. And empowerment is recognizing that you have this ability to choose how you're going to see the story and tell the story. But if no one's ever taught you this, you don't know that you can choose. And that's why when I see someone who's got a lot of money or who's had a very privileged life talking about certain things or people, and I think you have no idea what they've walked through or been through. Can I do a little mute on the line? You have no idea. Do you think a homeless person knows they have different choices? When someone says, well, everybody's got a choice. Well, maybe some people don't know they have a choice. There's something else that you're going to be learning, and we are going to go to the learning platform today, and we're going to talk about the lessons we're going to be starting with. But I just wanted to give you an introduction to what we're doing, and to let you know that at every one of these live calls, I'm going to also give you an opportunity to ask questions, any question. Nothing's off limits. About the learning, about challenges, about things you're confused by, insights, things you want to. We'll be doing that at the end of the call. We're going to go to the learning platform in just a second, but what was I just saying? You know, I should have notes, but at this point in my life, I just know what I'm teaching. And it's never the same because it's always fresh and new. And what also makes this so amazing every time that we do this is that you bring a new energy to what we're teaching and learning. Your energy influences what we're teaching and learning. So your experiences, we learn from you, where you're at, how you see things, what you feel. And that's why, which you're also going to learn in this book, which I believe is that when you shift to a higher energy, you impact and influence more and more people around you, even if it's just from your smiling, joyful heart. Even if you're not talking, when you walk into a room and there's a light about you that's kind and loving and compassionate and joyful. And I always try to remind myself, even when I've said about it, those dark nights of the soul feel like the black hole. You know, the truth is, if you were in this room and we shut the windows and turned all the lights off and it was pitch black, and I lit a match, the darkness can never smother the light. The light will always brighten the darkness. So sometimes when people say, but he took my power away from me, or she took my power, well, until you learn that no one can take your power from you, only you can give it away. Power is energy. We're going to amp up your own internal light. We're going to amp up your energy. So if you're feeling, especially in the year 2020, holy moly, ladies, we've been hit worldwide. And what I think is incredible is when I sometimes see the women when they introduce themselves, or I get to see the registrations as they're coming in, and I'm like, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Spain, and the United States. Like, I just start seeing all of these coming in, and I'm always like, isn't that not extraordinary? There were this little grassroots movement, and we are literally healing the world one woman at a time. And that's how we're going to do it. So in 2009, when the Dalai Lama came here to Canada, to the Vancouver Peace Summit, where I live, he told the sold out audience, the Western woman will heal the world. The Dalai Lama said the Western woman will heal the world, and created a bit of an uproar. I know. Oh my sister, it is time. Stand up. Yeah. Western women are going to heal the world. You know why? Because we can stand up. Because we can stand up. Because I can write blogs about anything I want to write. And no one's going to bury me in a pit and stone me to death. And that's still going on in the world. There are still places in the world where if a man thinks his wife might be having an affair, he has the right to put her in a hole in the ground and stone her to death. There are still places in the world where right now, if a woman drives a vehicle, she will be arrested and jailed. There are places in the world where a woman can't leave her home without a male chaperone. Well, what happens if your husband dies or you never had a son or you never got married? What do? How do you leave the house to go get your groceries? So we women are being called. And here's the great thing. You know what your job is? Is to just become your most empowered self. Because your most empowered self has such a ripple effect that you don't have to go to Africa and be a missionary. The truth is, send your money to the right place and let the people from their own cultures empower their own women. Like, I shouldn't maybe have said that, because maybe there's missionaries that are like, you should shut up because my family is missionaries. I'm not saying we shouldn't have missions. This is why I'm live. You know, if I was recording, that would have been stopped, edited out. So you always get my unedited version of Crystal. But I've really started learning that our job, and when you start doing your mentorship coaching, you will be coaching women from different countries, different cultures, different backgrounds. This works right across the board. Our job is not to teach people how to be or what to believe or what. Our job is to teach people, and I'm now remembering what I wanted to talk about. Our job is to ask the right questions, because within each of us are the right answers. But if we were never taught how to ask the right questions, the brain can't find the answer. Your brain is like a database, and your soul, I know that's doing the soul talk again, but we all are energetically connected. Because we actually know that, that's science. That's okay. Let's just go to the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory was, 10 billion years ago. The universe was a pea-size little ball of energy. This is the theory that the top scientists in the world all believe. The universe was this little ball-sized, pea-sized, and some intrinsic value, some inner value inside that energy caused it to explode and separate. Now, when we talk about explode, we're talking about a pea-sized explosion. And over 10 billion years, that energy, Albert Einstein said, stay with me, I'm not going to always be really scientific. Albert Einstein said, energy is never lost, it's only transferred. And we know that E equals mc squared, energy equals mass squared, quotient, means that energy and mass are perfectly interchangeable. What does that mean? That means that when the universe, the amount of energy has never changed, just the size of the container has. We were intrinsically part of that little ball of energy. And you know what? As it started to move apart, it started to form stars and sun and moons and how many galaxies. We are too formed from the same energy, the same atomic makeup as the stars. That's pure science. We are all connected. There's in Kabbalah, and I'm not Jewish, but I study all these different mystical strands and different, I love learning. And there's this theory or this idea in Kabbalah, which is called Tikkun Olam, which just means the repairing of the universe. It means wholeness. Well, we too are a microcosm of the universe. And when you were a little girl, you knew you were golden. You were whole. You hadn't compartmentalized yet. You hadn't started fragmenting off yet. You hadn't started making decisions like, oh, that girl that got abused, I don't like her. I don't want anyone to ever know about her. That part of me. So I'm going to take that little part of me and I'm going to bury her down in the basement in your subconscious. I'm going to take that part of me. You know, the kids all teased me. I was bullied. I was bullied. I was not by kids at school, by my own brother. Bullied. I was the ugliest girl in the world. Until I was about 16, I literally spent my life doing this. And now people say, do you get your lips injected? No, I never have. And they're not as big as they used to be because your lips get smaller with age. So imagine these big lips on a little tiny head and these big teeth on a little head. My brother would call me the worst names. So I did this my whole life until somebody said, you have a really beautiful smile. But you know, for so much of my life, I don't want to be on camera. I had a story in my head about how ugly I was. I was the ugly duckling. I actually had a story that I was so ugly. And all of a sudden people started saying, you're pretty. That doesn't align. I've already taken the ugly duckling and put her down in the basement. I'm ashamed of her. Some of us gain weight. We take our little chubby bubby. We're so ashamed. We don't want anyone I don't want anyone to think I'm fat. Oh, being fat is the worst possible thing in the world. So we take our little fat chubby bubby who loves us, who wants to protect us, who wants to keep us safe. We take her and we bury her down in the basement. And we start fragmenting off. There's this beautiful story. It's a true story. Just stay with me. It's a true story from 1957. There were a group of monks in Thailand, and they were moving this huge statue, 5-ton statue of this clay Buddha that was sitting in a deserted temple in Thailand, and they thought it had been sitting there for hundreds of years collecting dust. They said, we should move this big clay statue and move it to a temple where it will be seen. And in the midst of moving it, this is a true story, one of the straps that went under the huge big statue broke. And this huge statue, 5 tons, hit the ground and cracked. And everyone was horrified. Oh my God, we just broke the 900-year-old statue. Until one monk went, something is glistening under there. This is a true story. He ran and got a chisel, something that would take a lot of courage. And he began chipping off the clay. And to everyone's absolute amazement, underneath the clay was a solid golden statue. It is now deemed the most valuable statue in the world. True story. And the story goes that hundreds of years earlier, the Burmese army was coming into Thailand, and the monks at the time said, this solid golden statue will surely be stolen. So they devised this brilliant plan. Cover the gold with clay, and no one will ever know its worth. And it worked, except that every single monk was murdered. And the story could never be passed on until that statue was finally safe enough. We will never chip off our clay until we believe we are safe enough to shine. We will never step into our glory and our power and our magnificence until something in our, and often, ladies, I hate to say it, in our childlike mind as a 45-year-old, with our childlike beliefs, things that we believed as little girls told us, you're not safe in this family. So if you were a little girl, and I guarantee you, if you look at any 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, she will dance and play. If you ask a little 3-year-old, are you pretty? She'll say, I'm beautiful. If you say, what do you want to be when you grow up? She's going to be a teacher, and she's going to be a veterinarian, and she's going to be an actress, and she's going to be a dancer, because it doesn't even occur to her that she can't be anything she wants to be. And we would never say to a 3-year-old, well, you can't do that. You don't even bother trying to be an actress. An artist? A writer? Are you kidding me? You need a backup plan. You don't say that to a 3-year-old. Get a backup plan. You know what you should do? Go for the money. Forget your dreams. We don't say that. To a little kid, we say that. But all of a sudden, we hit a certain age. And you know what we actually start doing? We start looking around and we say to ourselves, it's not safe to be a girl in this world. It's not safe to be a bold, dynamic, beautiful, outspoken girl in this world. And each one of us find our ways of just putting on some clay. We just find our own little safe ways. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of us might decide to be completely rebellious, but that's clay. Some of us decide to be such a martyr. I just love cooking and cleaning for everybody. And I'm just hoping one day the kids will wake up and go, Mom, I just want to thank you for washing my dirty underwear. And they never do. I know, I have these little funny voices, by the way. I don't know where they come from. Anyways, we keep hoping someday someone's going to go, wow, like she's just so, and they never do. And what you're going to learn is that we all have so many different, I'm going to use the word archetypes. What is an archetype? You're going to learn all this, and it's going to become so fascinating when you start to realize there's like this real you, the golden you, the you who you would be if you'd never been abused, if you'd never been betrayed. Who would you be if you'd only been celebrated and told, you can be anything, you can do anything. You're extraordinary. You're a creative genius. You're not good at school? Don't worry about it. School wasn't designed for creative geniuses. School was designed for academic kids who can sit in a chair for 8 hours. I happened to be an academic kid who could sit in a chair for 8 hours. My brother couldn't. My brother hated my guts because I'd come up with my A+. But I also learned A+s get a little bit of my dad's attention. The only time he really talked to me was when company was over and he'd be like, Crystal, go get your report card. Because somehow my A+s meant he was smart. My A+s meant, because children, for most of our parents, children are extensions of them. We didn't come from and this is not to be mad at our parents, because our parents came from their parents. And parents only learn what they learn. And sometimes women say to me, why didn't I learn this when I was a kid? Because it wasn't around. Because this is new. Empowerment coaching is new. I know it sounds crazy, but I coined it. So when I see these other schools opening up, I'm like, I'm the first one. I'm number one on Google. Why am I number one and I've never paid for a Google ad? Because I've been doing it 20 years. When the internet first opened up, I was already had a website and I was saying empowerment, women's empowerment. I'm not anti-man. I never had a son, but if I had a son, I'd sure love my son as much as I love my daughters. I just happen to have daughters. And I happen to be sexually abused by different men growing up. And I happen to have a mother who was brutally abducted and raped by 2 men at 14. And I happen to come from a family of 7 aunties, of all women. And I got to see all my angry feminist aunties bashing all the men, but yet they never had jobs and they had no say in their own home. Because the man was the head of the home. And you better get the dinner on the table at 5 o'clock. And make sure you're pretty. So I happen to be the child born and grew up like I was a 70s kid. So some of you are younger than me, so you don't know that era yet. Some of you are older than me and you know what happened in the 70s. Shit got real. The feminine mystique and Gloria Steinem and Jane Fonda, and all of a sudden it was the second wave. Well, I was born right into it, to a man-hating feminist who literally taught me things like, don't ever get married, don't ever have children, they ruin your life. I laugh because I'm just like, my poor mother. But that's what she taught me. Never let a man see you without makeup on. Why? The mistress always gets treated better than the wife. Can you imagine going through life That's a mask. That's called daughter energy. That's an archetype. 100 years ago, there wasn't a woman in the world that was considered a person yet under the law. We weren't considered people yet, ladies. Your great-grandmother was not considered a person under the law. She didn't have not only the right to vote, she couldn't own any property. She couldn't have a bank account. She couldn't get a mortgage. She couldn't get a credit card. She couldn't get anything. In fact, if her husband decided he didn't want to keep the children because he couldn't afford them, the man could just put his children up for adoption or put them into an orphanage. And the woman had no recourse. My mother was, and I didn't mean to say all this today, but it's coming out. My mother told her story, so that's why I share it. My mother told her story. I gave a place for my mother to tell that story. And for my mother to be picked up walking home one night when she was 14 by two men who said, "What are you doing walking home by yourself?" She lived in Toronto. "I have daughters your age. Get in the car. We're going to drive you home. You shouldn't be out walking by yourself." It went against all of her intuition, and everything in her gut said, "No, I'm fine. I'm fine. Get in the car." And we were taught to listen to men, to authority, to older people. Don't question. So she did. And instead of turning this way to go to her house, they turned that way. When they caught those two men, because as they raped her outside on the ground, she memorized the license plate number. And when they caught them, they were older men and they did have children my mother's age, and they received 6 months probation. That's what my mother was worth in 1964. I heard all those stories way too young. I shouldn't have learned those stories at the young age that I did, but they deeply impacted me. And then for me to be raped at 14, I started to see something called patterns, generational trauma, and how it repeats itself. My grandmother moved from Scotland to Canada when she was 14. She was the eldest of 12 children. How do you have 12 children in 14 years and none of them were twins? It was called no birth control. Women have to have the right to choose birth control. That's how we have, that's an ability for us to decide what we want in our lives. And there's still tons of countries in the world where we go, well, you know, anyways, I'm not going to get into all that either, because that's not what today's lesson is about. I'm just opening you up to a whole new world of, don't worry, you're going to love your life. Don't worry. But funny enough, my grandmother came here at 14. And back then, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants don't talk about anything. How was it? It was fine. Did anything bad happen? No. But they also don't say I love you, even though you know they do. They also aren't very affectionate because they just weren't taught that. So grandma come over here and all she told me was I got sent to work on a farm and I had to send home the money to my family, but he never paid me. And he sometimes would give me toiletries, so I would ship the toilet paper home. What happened to grandma at 14? I don't know. But I do know she was sent away to work and never got an education. And she so prided herself in teaching herself how to read and how to write. And my mom was raped at 14 and never recovered. And on the way home from the hospital and the police station, my grandfather, God bless his soul, thought he was doing the right thing and said, it would probably be best that you never speak about this again. Don't tell anyone. We're not even going to tell your sisters. So imagine my mom has 5 sisters and she can't tell anyone. No therapy. Let's never talk about it. Of course, my mother imploded. Of course, my mother was pregnant at 17. Of course, my mother dropped out of school in grade 9. Of course, my mother had 0 skills and coping skills to raise children. Of course. And of course, by the time I was about 7 years old, when my sister was born, I formed an archetype that I now call mother energy. I became very, very good at reading what other people needed. It kept me safe. I became very, very good at knowing what you were feeling before you even knew what you were feeling. It kept me safe. I knew when to smile. I knew when to shut my mouth. I knew how to make my bed perfectly. My little hangers in my closet were spaced 1 inch apart. I would know if someone went in that closet. I formed an archetype called the perfectionist. If I could just be perfect, if I could just do things perfectly, if I could just get straight A's, if I could just be the best, if I could just be good, if I could just do it good, and I could just take care of people, and I could learn how to cook, and then I'll take care of my sister. And then all of a sudden my parents separated, divorced when I was 12. And what felt like a matter of weeks, my mother moved her 24-year-old boyfriend in, and sexual abuse began. So I've done a lot of healing, but I've also listened to hundreds, if not thousands of women's stories. And we're so similar. And it doesn't matter what country you live in. And it doesn't matter what place you worship at or don't worship at. We all want the same things. We want to be seen and heard and valued and listened to. We want to be respected and understood. We want to have a voice. We need to know we matter, that your life matters, that my life matters. It was when I hit my early 40s that I had that dark night of the soul that I started thinking, why am I here? Is my only purpose in life to take care of other people? Like, is literally my job in life just to raise children and have my husband and help all my ladies and carry the weight of the world on my shoulders? No, it's not. That's not my job, and it's not your job either. And I had to learn how to not only make peace with my mother energy and thank her for doing a good job. Good job, mother energy. You got me to this point. But guess what? I need to go put you in a little rocking chair now, get you a cup of tea, put a little blankie around your shoulder, and let you know Crystal's got it now. This woman, me, the woman, the grown-up. I can run the show now. You don't need to run the show anymore. Thank you. I love you. But you know what? There was still a disconnect. I could love my mother energy because she's sweet and she's saintly. She's a martyr. She does good things for everybody. But I still hadn't gotten to know, love, and accept my daughter energy, my rebellious teenager, my charmer, my seductress. Oh, I don't want anyone to know that. I don't want women to know that part of me. But every so often, my daughter energy would come up to the basement door and smash on the basement door, and she'd break out, and she'd go out and do the craziest thing. You know what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. And then I'd grab her, and I'd be like, are you crazy? Get back down in the basement. And I'd push her back down in the basement, and I'd bolt the door, and I'd get some pit bulls and a security system, and I'd keep her in the basement, and then every so often she'd bust out again. And I had to get to know her. I had to get to know the part of me that I'd been so ashamed of. The little tainted girl, the little girl that wasn't going to get into heaven, the little girl that was bad, the little girl that carried so much shame, the little girl that was promiscuous when she was a teenager because she didn't know any better, because she didn't actually know she had worth anymore. She didn't actually know that if she kissed a boy, she could actually say, no more. She actually didn't know that if she started to fool around with someone and they wanted to keep going, that she wasn't allowed to say no. She actually had a story in her head that if she didn't take care of him, then he would be hurt or he would be in pain. She didn't know. So she was buried, and all the shame was buried, and all the stories were buried, and everything was buried until I finally had to bring her up and go, my God, I'm so sorry. You're so amazing, and no one protected you, and no one loved you, and I'm going to take care of you now. You belong at the dining room table. I'm going to make you a nice big dinner tonight, and you're going to get to go outside and play. You're going to get to go be a kid, and you get to go be, and I can be the woman that can run the show. And suddenly, tikkun olam, the repairing of my universe, wholeness. I didn't just have to love the good parts of me. I could love all of me, the good, the bad, the ugly. This is called wholeness. I love Jane Fonda. I always have. And now she's a climate crisis fighter. Good old Jane. Jane Fonda was on Oprah's Masterclass, and she said, we're not meant to be perfect. We're meant to be whole. We're not meant to be perfect. We're meant to be whole. And to be whole means that we're going to have to get to know all of ourselves. So as you become a coach, you're going to have the tools to learn when you're listening to someone who's showing up right now. We're going to teach you this. It's called working with parts. You're going to learn. It's going to be really exciting. This is like a practical new psychology. In fact, I have psychologists who take my courses who say, this is a practical new psychology. You're going to start to learn some processes and interventions that the reason that I set it up so that you take this before the Emotional Edge course is so that you have a container, just like the universe. You have a container to learn in that you can start to go, I see where she's going with this. There's a method to the madness. We're not just going to bring people into places and leave them and abandon them. We're going to actually meet them where they're at. So if they have a story that, and we're not therapy, just to be really clear, we're not going, and then what did he say? And then what did she say? And then what did you do? That's not what we do. We listen, not just to what they're saying, but to what they're not saying. And you can almost start to realize how they're telling themselves this story. Does this story serve them or disempower them? And can we rewrite that story so that she can become the Shiro of her own life? Can we start to rewrite that story? We can. But how I like to rewrite it is one level at a time. Because we're not on Star Trek, okay? We're not actually at the point that we can just vaporize. At the point that you were that enlightened and your energy was that light, you probably have vaporized. Like, I don't know. I think you probably are just like, I don't need to be here anymore. So just remember, no one is higher than you. If we're still all on this planet Earth, we're all physical beings. And we're having these spiritual experiences, but you're meant to be a human being. You're meant to be in your body. You're not meant to float out above your body. You're not meant to be looking down on yourself while you're having sex. You're meant to be in it. You're not meant to be looking down like you're always just floating around somewhere. You're meant to be in it. And your body is this brilliant machine that, yeah, your eyes are energy processing. You're listening. Even if you couldn't see me right now, you can hear me. How is that? Have you ever thought about that? How can you hear someone that you don't see? Why? Because there's energy coming out of my mouth, and the energy is moving through and transmitting into these energy processing transmitters called ears. And these ears are able to transmute energy into words, into sounds. It's extraordinary. So energy is never lost, it's only transferred. So we're going to start to shift our energy higher, one step at a time. If someone's resonating down in shame, this is what I've learned. If I was feeling really ashamed, and even if I have nothing to be ashamed of, and someone up here that's all enlightened said, just don't think about it anymore. Just tell yourself you love you. I love that a few of you are laughing because it's the truth. Just love yourself. What does that mean? I don't know, go for a massage. Just do some loving things for yourself. Go get your nails done. What? That's gonna heal my heart? that's going to shift me energetically. What? If I've been carrying a story about who I am for 45 years, I'm going to go get a massage and my nails done and I'm going to suddenly love myself? That's not the way it works. Now, don't get me wrong. I love getting a massage and my nails done, but that is not the work that we do. That's not what we do. What we do is we start to listen and we go, wow, she's really telling herself a story that feels very shameful. Or, God, she's carrying a lot of guilt. You're not judging. We never judge, ever. You're going to have a chance to listen to a whole bunch of coaching calls. And you're going to start to realize we never judge. We just meet people where they're at. And we explore the emotion they're in. We explore the way that they're feeling. And I like to just explore, I like to walk you through it. So let's do this together today, because this is going to be the foundation of coaching. And I'm going to write it right here and hopefully that you can see it. I'm going to start down low at the bottom. So the lowest, let's just call it that, emotion that we all have within us. And we're going to literally week by week explore every emotion. And week by week, I'm going to give you processes and interventions to help someone shift an emotion or an energy higher. So the very lowest place, someone that you could be talking with, and don't listen, ladies, this could be a really successful woman. You could be coaching someone who's a multimillionaire, but it doesn't mean that when it comes to her mom, she doesn't have a story. She could be so breathtakingly beautiful that you're just like, I don't understand how she, but when it comes to her ability to make money, she doesn't have a good story. It could be that she's so successful, makes tons of money, but she can't get it together when it comes to her body. So this is not you're disempowered. It means when it comes to this thing that you're going through, and that's why we, just so you know, in our type of coaching, we never deal with the problem first. Problems are always secondary. Strategy is always secondary. The first thing we always address is where they're at emotionally. So here's the lowest place that a human being can resonate in any country, in any gender, across the globe. Shame. Here's what's really interesting about shame. Psychologists have studied this emotion, and some of you have read Brené Brown's work. She's a really great teacher on shame and learning how to expose shame. But here's what we know about shame. Shame is not an inborn emotion. Do you know that you weren't born with shame? Children have no shame. I'm shameless now. I'm like a little innocent child again. Children aren't born with shame. It's when all of a sudden you're 2 years old and your mom's trying to get you to go in the potty. I always just use this as a joke, but I'm not saying it was your mom. It wasn't your, I'm not saying it was your mom. Poor moms, they just get the brunt of everything. I'm not saying it was your mom, but all of a sudden, oh, bad girl, you don't go poo-poos in your diaper, you go poo-poos in the potty. And for the first time, you feel this sense of shame for going poo-poos in your diaper. I'm just saying, I don't even know if that's even the story. Your all faces are really serious, like, I formed shame because I didn't go poo-poos in the potty. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is we actually don't, that is not in babies. Babies have zero shame and they also have zero guilt. So shame and guilt are cultural emotions. Some of us had mothers that were really good at guilting us. Oh, it's okay. I've just slaved away. That's fine. Go out with your friends. It does fine. You don't have to come home for Christmas. I don't even buy me anything. Shame, guilt. These emotions begin to form around 18 months to 2 years old. We don't even have them before that. Yes, babies will feel fear and feel angry. They'll cry, they'll feel sad. They do not feel shame or guilt. So these are the lowest resonating. Now I want you to imagine that inside you, you have a 1,000-watt light bulb. just go with me on this. It's, for me, I just find it's the easiest way if you can think of it in these terms. You have 1,000-watt light bulb inside of you that maybe no one ever taught you how to access. You have a dimmer switch attached to that light. And maybe no one ever said, hey, here's where the dimmer switch is. And you turned your light down, but I'm going to help you turn it back up. But that light is energy, just like a light. It's energy. That's literally what we're talking about. So you have a 1,000-watt bulb up here at the top. We're going to get up there. At some point, we're going to get all the way up to the top. Okay, so you have a 1,000-watt bulb if you knew how to turn yourself up full spectrum. But we have a dimmer switch. And in this book by Dr. David Hawkins, which we're going to get to next week, we're going to start talking about this. Whether you agree with his kind of applied kinesiology, forget about it. He's an MD, he's brilliant. The philosophy behind his teachings is brilliant. He says shame resonates at 20 watts. It's not watts, but let's just use the word watts because it all makes sense to us, like a light bulb, watts. Let's just use that. He says that resonates at about 20 out of the 1,000-watt bulb that's inside of you. So when you're going around saying, who I am is no good, if you knew the truth of who I came from, if you knew the truth of what happened to me, if you knew the truth of who I am is no good. That is the worst possible story you can tell yourself. Who I am, who I came from. So imagine that you don't like your kid's dad and you say things all the time like, your dad is a loser. You know what that little kid says? I came from him. So if my dad's a loser, I have the same blood as my dad, I'm probably no good either. You're just like your mother. Well, that's shameful. Shame resonates at 20. So if I have a client that's got a shame story, could you imagine me going, you just need to love yourself? No, that's not even possible, because if you've ever done a dimmer switch, it's just like a radio dial. You can't move along without moving through every frequency on the radio dial. If you were at 99.9 and you wanted to get up to 107.1, I know we live in this world of instant where you think you pressed a button and it went there, but it actually had to go to get there. If you wanted to flick a light on, I know it seems instantaneous, but that light actually starts at 0 and goes fast and flicks on bright. Well, let's slow it down and imagine you got that light inside, you got a dimmer switch. And bit by bit, so I would say, what happened? So here's a question. What happened that made you feel so badly about yourself? What do you wish you would have done or could have done differently? That actually moves us out of the who I am is no good into what I did was no good. The guilt story is, well, what I did was no good. I should have told someone. I shouldn't have let him get away with it. I actually feel guilty because how many other people did he do this to? So then we have a guilt story. So I wouldn't say, don't feel guilty about that. That's not what you say to someone. You say, what do you wish? Who do you blame? Apathy. You know what apathy is? Apathy is, at least, it's not my fault. It's a sense of hopelessness, but it's not my fault. So we actually would want to move someone from who I am is no good, what I did what was no good, to what they did to me. Who do you blame for this? I'm going to tell you something that's going to come out. You're going to start to see it over time. Every one of you should sign up for mentorship coaching with Sandika Joy. She's on the call right now. I'm actually going to introduce her at the bit before we hang up. Sandika Joy is she's a graduate of the school, and she is our mentorship coaching coordinator. And I highly recommend that you get at least coaching with 2 different coaches that will mentor you free of charge. 3 calls. We always do 3 calls. You'd be shocked at what happens in 3 calls. We're very different than therapy. It's just like, boom, and then all of a sudden you shift, and boom, then you shift. And It's really possible to sustain. But we always say, keep having coaching, because it's really important to have someone to keep helping you plug back into a higher frequency. Tell yourself the story differently. 50. So imagine you got this 1,000-watt bulb, but you're resonating at 50. Well, listen, imagine that you're driving in the car in the pitch black through the mountains, and your headlights should be at 1,000 and they're only at 50. You're not going to see that far in front of your car. You're not going to see the road up ahead and the deer coming down and the thing. You can't see that far. So could you imagine making a decision for your life when you're resonating at 50? But I'd rather say, shame says, who am I is no good. Guilt says what I did was no good. Blame says, or apathy, we could just use the word blame, but it's fine. Stuck. The best word to figure out if someone is in apathy is, I just feel stuck. Stuck means I can't go back down there anymore. I cannot parent out of guilt anymore. I cannot be in this relationship because I feel badly. I cannot keep doing this thing, but I don't know what to do. So I do nothing. That's called stuck. And then we enter a place called sorrow. No one wants to be sad. You know what I say? What if I just gave you permission? Just tell me what you wished it could have been and should have been and ought to have been. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't want to prep it, but almost without fail, when you really get down to the nitty-gritties, most women will say, I blame my mom or my dad. Why didn't they protect me? Or why didn't they do it differently? Or why didn't they teach me? Or why is my mom still doing this to me right now? Now, it doesn't mean always. Some of us might say, I blame the teacher. I blame this person. I blame that. It doesn't matter, whoever it is. I blame my ex. I'd still say good. Good. Let's blame someone, because that's at least getting you away from doing this. And then we have to move into sorrow. And I say, why don't you write that person a letter? You're never going to send it to me. And just write down all the should have beens and could have beens and ought to have beens. When I married you, I had dreams for my life. We should have been so good. We could have been so good. We ought to have been so good. Write it all out. You never have to send it, because here's the great thing about emotional work. The other person never needs to see it for it to work. And sometimes you might have to write that letter a lot of times. I had to write a lot of letters to my mom over the years. Now my letter would probably be like, hey mom, you did the best you could. I turned out okay. It's too bad that you haven't talked to me in 13 years. It's too bad that you haven't talked to any of your children or any of your grandchildren in 13 plus years. I hold space for you. And if we don't get it together in this lifetime, I sure hope when I see you in heaven that you'll let me give you a really big hug. And maybe we'll even have a laugh. And then you know what starts to happen when you move through those low emotions? You feel something that's really natural, that's in animals. You feel an emotion called fear. And fear is actually this rumbling. Fear is actually, I think it's 75. If I don't have all of the things right, fear is like, but who would you be if you didn't have the story to tell? Who would you be if you had no one to blame? Who would you be if you didn't, what are you afraid of? Well, I'm afraid, I love just doing the trigger exercise with women. What are you afraid of? What's the worst possible thing someone could think of you? What's the worst? Do you know that for most of my life, the worst possible thing, it just baffles my brain that I think fear is 100. Great, thank you, Leah. It baffles my brain to think that for most of my life, the worst possible thing I could be was fat. Is that effed up? Do you know how many women, the worst possible thing is someone could think of as fat? You know what they say about fear? What you fear, you draw near. Of course I got fat. Of course, it's my go-to. Even now, I have a closet full of size 3/4s to 11/12s. And I just rotate in between. But you know what now I say? Oh my God, I love myself in an 11/12. I am so damn sexy. My boobs are so big. My butt is so big. Girlfriend, I just need to wear a good little girdle. You got it going on, girl. And I had to make peace with that part of me. I just had a call actually with a client and I said, well, we're going to get there. What's the worst possible thing? I'm fat, 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 until you can finally get on with it and go, okay, so what if I've been fat and I could be fat and I might be fat again? Let's get on with living. Let's get on with being fabulous. Who has time to build an international coaching school for women if all my energy is going into making sure I never get fat? Who has time to write books and get on Oprah if all my energy is focused on, okay, I love that you're laughing, Leslie. Like, what if all my energy has to go into never letting anyone know that I'm fat? I can never be on Facebook. I can never actually show a picture of me standing with my children because people will go, Crystal gained weight. Who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? Excuse my language, ladies. I swear from time to time. Let's get on with living. What if you find out that, what's the worst possible thing? I'm a fraud. You know, my God bless my poor mother. My poor mother right now is just going, you have to use me. She's not really, but she's probably just like, God, do I have to be the antagonist in this story? Why do you get to be the protagonist? Why do you always get to be the hero and I'm the bad guy? Well, she's got her own story and hopefully she tells her story in a way that makes her the protagonist. I hope she has friends. I hope she's got guardian angels. I hope she's got people that think she's great. Because don't we all deserve that? Even if you hurt me, don't you deserve to have someone that loves you? I'm a bad daughter. 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 Bad daughter. Bad daughter. Bad daughter. Bad daughter. I'm a bad daughter. Because guess what? If I can get on with you not worrying about me being a bad daughter, I can get on with being a great woman. Because if all my energy has to go into proving to you I'm a saint, that's a lot of wasted energy. Who has time to go be fabulous? I know, I love that you're having a chuckle. It's great. It's freedom. Freedom. Okay, so we're going to move through the fear. And guess what resonates just a little higher than fear? It's called this land of desire. It's much better than all this shit. But who wants to live in desire? I just want a better body. I just want more money. I really just want a better life. I know it's a good place in the sense that it's better than being down here stuck. But if you stay stuck in desire, after a while, you'll just start scrolling Instagram and feeling like a loser. And you'll keep comparing your worst reel to their best reel. Like, listen, ladies, I did this the other day to show the ladies. I have a daughter who is a professional makeup artist. She has worked with already, and she's only 23, some of the biggest celebrities in the world. How does she do that? Living in a little town of 400 people in Canada? Well, you think about, you bring about. If I can teach it to her, I can teach it to you. I can teach it to anybody. But so I've learned makeup. These cheeks are contoured. This chin is contoured. Yes, I've done contouring. Oh, if you knew how much makeup I have on right now. Oh, it's extraordinary. I know it looks kind of natural, but it's really not. I've even learned the no makeup look. The no makeup look. It means you have a shit ton of makeup on, but you actually look like you have no makeup on. You're just so flawless. Then I like to show this to the ladies. I'm going to show you something. Okay. Wait till I turn my lights off. Hold on. Where are the lights? Okay. Now I'm going to be in the same lighting as you. Yeah, she's not so pretty. Okay, now I'm going to take off the really good camera because I also have the expensive camera that makes me look pretty. Hold on. I'm going to put it to the camera like you have on. Yeah, she's not so pretty now. Hey, the great equalizer. Hey, the great equalizer. Now imagine if my hair was pulled back and I had no makeup on. You'd just be like, oh, so we're all just girls doing our thing. Yeah, we are. Tell me more about the no makeup look. You have to sign up for Julia's certification because now she's certifying women from all over the world. Let's put it back on. Let's get the lights. You know, Barbara Streisand, she has to have her proper lighting everywhere she goes. Hold on. And I don't blame her because women can be mean. They say, you know, Barbara, I thought you were beautiful until you didn't have the, no, I'm only kidding. Okay, Crystal gets carried away sometimes. See, look at that now. She's back. She's looking back. She's looking like she knows. She's got the blonde streaky hair. It's called the lighting. All right. Desire. Desire, are you with me? We got 5 minutes left. Are you with me for the last 5 minutes? Are you enjoying your first call? Are you having a little chuckle? Yay. All right. Desire. Guess what you're going to feel? Just think about it. Just think about this. Just natural. Don't be enlightened. Please don't try to be enlightened right now. Don't spiritually bypass. Because this is what a lot of women want to do. They want to spiritually bypass. I don't want to feel angry. I don't want to feel angry. Anger is not a very nice emotion. No, no one wants to be angry. I'm loving. But guess what? You cannot become enlightened without moving through anger. Most of us were never taught what to do with our anger. We weren't taught healthy expressions of anger. Listen, if there's been an injustice, you better get angry. If there's something that's happening that is absolutely unjust, wrong, you better get angry. Because all great change happened because a group of people got angry enough to say, unacceptable. Mothers Against Drunk Driving was formed because Cindy Lauder, her 12-year-old daughter was killed by a drunk driver in California. So she formed Mothers Against Drunk Driving. She got angry enough. Slavery was abolished 200 years ago because a group of people finally got angry enough to say, are you kidding me? But it wasn't until 1865, even though slavery was abolished, it still took how long before, and then 64, Rosa Parks was on a bus that was still segregated. And we say, why are people still angry in the US? Well, because in 1964, are any of you alive in 1964? Black children and white children went to different schools. So this was in our generation. Shit has got to change. And it's not until a group of people get angry enough. And listen, anger doesn't mean kick the dog. Anger means get into action. Anger means it's time to take some action. Really productive, smart action. Action, anger, smart anger, healthy expression of anger. 1993, we have women from South Africa on the call. Women of color, people of color. Women of color in South Africa couldn't vote until 1994. Weren't considered a person under the law with apartheid. In 1994, we have women on the call. Pride. Pride. Do you want to stay stuck in pride? No. But let me tell you something. It's the highest emotion of what I call the lower levels of consciousness. Pride is what's going on. Forgive me. I have a big mouth. I might edit this out if I wasn't live. What's going on in the United States of America right now? Everybody's got all this pride and dignity. That's my rights. These are my rights. I have a lot of pride. Beating my chest. Pride is what spurs a country on to war. I'm better than you. pride is a good thing if you've never had it before, because for the first time in your life, you start having some dignity and you start to have some pride. And we want to get a woman there because, oh my God, it's like, oh my God, but have you ever met the person who's just lost 100 pounds and then she wants everyone to stop eating sugar? The person who's just quit smoking, oh, it's the most disgusting smell. I can't, are you smoking weed around me? Is that weed? That my dogs are gonna get worked up. Pride. They feel me. So see how dogs can Ruby, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. And that's how we can get people riled up. That's how you do it. Most motivators that are on the stage that are not doing the really deep spiritual work, they get you prideful. They get you really wound up. You're amazing. You shouldn't put up with that. Don't put up with that. You should leave them. That is not where we stop. Come here. Come on, girl. And you better believe the tiniest dog in the pack is the alpha. She's the mom. She runs the show. Hey, Ruby. Yes. So pride is a good place if someone has never felt good about themselves before. But pride also has a flip side, which is, I'm better than you. My life is more important than your life. My needs are more important than your needs. Who I am is more important than good sound effects, Ruby. Good job, Ruby. Good job. Okay, I gotta go because I could talk forever and ever and ever. Maybe we're gonna end today at the one next step, one higher level. It's called courage. We want to get our clients to at least courage. What would courage have you do? You did it. Each one of you have signed up for this course and it took courage. You don't know what you're in for. You don't even, half of you are like, I don't even know what I signed up for. But you had the courage to do it. Everything gets good beyond there. And next week, we're going to talk about the levels higher. Let me give you the really quick one. From courage, buttons popping open. From courage, it moves you into neutrality. Now, I've just been learning some new interventions for neutrality. So for those of you who have been with me before, you're going to get really excited because I have all new interventions for neutrality. And I'll tell you what the biggest one is. I did it today to a very brilliant man on Facebook. He's my therapist. I've only ever had 3 therapy sessions. I don't mean to say it for that, but I know what we can do in 3 coaching calls. So I booked him. He's brilliant. He's written amazing books. He's brilliant. But he always goes on Facebook. Not always, but occasionally goes on Facebook and he poo-poos on other people's healing modalities. Oh, these coaches. How do you know what we do? How do you know what we do? Oh, these white spiritual women. White spiritual women. They are just killing our world. How do you know what white spiritual women do? You are a white Jewish man. How do you know? How are you so certain? So I just gave him a little, because you know what I know? Neutral. I was actually very neutral about it. But you know what, you can ask the question? How do you know? How can you be so certain? Help me see the other side. Curious. Be curious. Ask questions. One of the things I've taught my daughters, and I'm going to end with this today because I really can't talk a lot. You always have the right to question authority. You always have the right to ask questions, to disagree, to voice your opinion. You do not have the right to be careless, to have careless disregard for someone else's feelings or opinions or beliefs. You cannot be reckless. You cannot scream. You cannot. I occasionally still have a little yell from time to time at my husband. He's probably the only person in my life. I still occasionally raise my voice, but he can't tolerate that. Like, my voice goes really shrill. But to believe me, I've learned, I've really gotten better at my ability to communicate, but I had to teach my daughters, especially when they became teenagers and they wanted to start fighting with each other and yelling at each other. I'd say, we don't do it this way anymore. You have the right to believe whatever you want to believe. And everything above that, the next level up, I'm just going to go really quick, willingness. Man, when there's a will, there's a way. Acceptance. Reason. I know you got to be reasonable to be empowered. Love. Do you know what resonates even higher than love? Joy. When you are having fun, you know who you really are. When you are doing what you love to do, you know your real self. That's who you really are. That's you without the clay. When you do what you love, you suddenly are like, this is who I am. This is who I am in life. This is who I'm meant to be. It gives me goosebumps. I love talking. Of course I got sent to the hallway in grade 1 for talking too much. It all makes sense now. Crystal, you have to stop talking. I don't know how to stop. You're gonna have to go to the hallway. No, the worst possible thing in the world is to go to the hallway. Joy, and guess what resonates just above joy? Peace. Peace is totally different than passive. Peace of mind. Just to have peace of mind. Now we're getting to the good stuff. So ladies, thank you so much for joining us on the first call. If you haven't logged in yet, you don't have a homework assignment this week. Here's what your homework is. Literally, log into S.W.A.T on call. I'm going to do a quick share screen and take you there. If you haven't yet, do you see this page? This is S.W.A.T on call. If you just signed up today, I know some of you just signed up in the last hour before we got started. So you're going to get a login and you're going to get a password. And here's where you log in, right up here at the top. Do you see this up here at the top where it says login? I've already logged in. You're going to put in your name, your username, and your password. You're going to be encouraged to change your password to something that's your own, so it's private. We don't have access to it. You can go in. When you come in, you're going to see 2 different programs. Just like going to university, you're going to start off getting your BA, so to speak. And your BA is the gold. Once you complete this, you have an opportunity to take the master program to become a master coach. You don't have to. You're absolutely certified with this program, okay? This is what I want you to do, is just get in here and start to get familiar with this. Okay, you're also seeing it, just so you know, all of this, you're not gonna see any of this. This is like me as a teacher, that I see all the modules, I see it. So this isn't how it's gonna look for you. Imagine all of this is gone. You're gonna come in. What I would love you to do is just get to look through the different things, sign up for mentorship coaching, sign up, reach out to Izabela, because mentorship coaching is, we will be supporting you for the rest of your life. You never have to pay for a therapist again. You never have to pay for a coach again. If you want to have someone to chat with once a week, we got you. And these are women who have gone through the entire program. And now it's almost like a doctor that has to do their internship. We will provide you with 30 practice coaching calls with real women from around the world when you're ready. And I know some women go, I'm scared. Okay, see these arrows? You're better to use the arrows to move through lessons, because if you click close, it closes the whole thing off. You see what just happened? See how I just closed it at the top? It closed the whole thing off. So I'm gonna go back to the screen share. Are you guys all seeing my screen still? Are you seeing J-Lo or no? Oh. Okay, let me show you my actual screen share. Okay, I'm gonna show you my desktop. Wait, do you guys all, do you see J-Lo? My kid goes, "What's wrong with you, Mom?" Oh, there's What Makes a Woman. Oh, that's Katy Perry's new song. Okay, let's see what makes a woman. What does make a woman? I don't know. J-Lo turning 50 in 3 months. My kid actually goes, "Do you actually think you're going to look like that?" I say, "Shut up. That's not the point. That's not the point." Okay, anyways, let's stop share. I'm just having a chuckle with you. Listen, this is fun. I have such a good time teaching. And let me tell you one other thing. If you think you got to get on your game before you can become a coach, become a coach. It'll get you on your game. That's how you get on your game. A little pressure makes you perform. Me wanting to be good for you makes me good for me. So ladies, get into the platform, get into the getting started section, get into module 1, just have a look around, see what's coming. Don't get freaked out, because every single week, and Sandika, I'm gonna introduce you right now for 1 minute. Every single week, I'm actually gonna go lesson 1. I'm gonna open it up for you. I'm gonna explain everything that's in there. I'm gonna tell you what the most important takeaway is. You are not gonna be graded on your assignments. We just wanna make sure you do them. Here's where you do get graded. Your final assignment, your final exam. Love your screensaver. I know. Okay, I'm gonna take off my share screen. Oh, it's off. Is it off? Is it already off? Are you with me? Okay, it's off. I know. I just do stuff like that. You know, I love women. I'm gonna celebrate J-Lo. I love women. If you're beautiful, I'm gonna tell you, girl, you're so beautiful. If you have a hot body, I'm gonna go, girl, you got a hot body. If you're the smartest woman I've ever met, I'm gonna go, damn, you are the smartest woman I've ever met. And you know what? You know when you found peace within yourself, when you truly feel that way about everyone else. I want you to shine. I want you. I know. This is the other thing you're gonna learn from coaching. All your little idiosyncrasies, I always say, I want you. I teach yoga and I go, I want you to lift your arms up in the air. I want you to, I want you to, and I have to learn to get rid of that. So catch me every time I go, I want you to be so fucking happy in your life. I want you to be so successful. I want you to feel so amazing. I want you to love the skin you're in. I don't care if you lose weight. I don't care if you gain weight. I want you to feel so good about who you are as a human being, because your life matters, your needs matter, your dreams matter. I don't care how old you are or how young you are. This is exactly the right time. This is the moment you're supposed to be here. And the way we're going to heal the world is one woman at a time. When you heal a woman, you literally heal her DNA. You heal her legacy and all the women who came before you. And you heal your children and the children who will come after you. This is really big, powerful work. It's actually scientific. It's called epigenetics. Crystal can keep talking. She's gonna shut up now. Sandika Joy, open up your line. I won't be doing 2-hour calls every week, I promise, ladies. And if you gotta go, go. Sandika Joy. Are you there?
Hello, Crystal. Amazing first class.
Little Sandika Joy, I shouldn't call her little. She's our 35-year-old goddess who moved off the grid to a little island off the coast of the Pacific, in the Pacific Ocean, off the coast of Canada. She lives on an island that has no hydro, that has no electricity, that has no hospital, that has no police, that has no nothing. She's a homesteader. She's just opened up her own little retreat center. She has women fly in, or not fly, because there's no airport. She has women that get on a foot ferry, that they come across on a ferry to her little island. She does adventure retreats for women, women's adventure retreats. She's graduated from my program. Now, as the opportunities come, because when you step into the flow, they come to you. She just happened to be there, and there's this little hotel that's just happened to be right at the harbor. And the man who just bought the hotel said, I'm really looking for someone who can rent this space. And Sandika's like, how much? He says, $500 a month. I go, Sandika, take it. She talks him down to $200 a month. She's got a hotel. She's got a restaurant. $350. Okay, $350. She was a hairdresser back in the day. She's opened up her little business. She's got her hair salon. She does her empowerment coaching. And I hired her to be my mentor, my mentorship coaching coordinator, because she's done the work, because she showed up. And guess what? She asked for a job. If you don't ask, you don't get. I'm not saying I'm going to hire everyone. I can't, but I always hire within. I always hire within. Like, why wouldn't I hire within? Anyway, Sandika, tell the ladies how they can find you and how they can get booked for either signing up to be a mentor coach or what they will do when it's their time to start mentoring. And tell them how scared you were at first and how confident you are now. Just tell them, Sandika.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So if you want to, when you want to get a mentor coach, you just email me at sandikajoy@SWATinstitute.com. And I was terrified when I started my practice calls. Well, not terrified. I was excited and nervous. And it was not really about the coaching part, but all like the setting up and the technical stuff. So when you get to that point, don't worry, I'll help you through that. So I'll talk to you and you'll figure that out. But you won't be starting your practice calls until you're done module 2. So you got lots of time.
And I was just going to say, I'm talking over Sandika, another one of my terrible personality faults. I just talk over people because I'm a big mouth. I'm a big mouth. Guess what? When I can finally make peace with the fact that I'm a big mouth, I can get on with being fabulous. There's another one of my fear busting exercises. Big mouth Crystal just talks over people. Sorry, I'm going to work on that. Sandika Joy sometimes has internet that cuts out, but she will still get on a Zoom call with you and show you how to set up the technology, show you how to do it, walk you through everything. We will never leave you hanging. You're with us for life. Mm-hmm. You can't get free. They won't let me go. No, we love you and we're here to support you. First and foremost, you matter, and then your coaching career matters, but you first and foremost. So Sandika Joy at SWATinstitute.com. My daughter Madeline at SWATinstitute.com is my executive assistant. She's my 25-year-old goddess. And she is like a little mini me. God, she just knows exactly what to do and how to do it. She was just raised in this energy. My husband, Aaron, AA Ron. That's how you spell it, AA Ron. It's not ARRON, because people do that all the time and then they never get emails. They wonder where it went to. It's in cyberspace. AA Ron. My kids used to call him that. AA Ron at SWATinstitute.com. He takes care of all of the billing. He takes care of if you didn't receive an email, if you need to log into the platform. He does all that. We're like a team around here, and we all get along. Isn't that incredible? I'm going to tell you one last thing. This is the truth. I swear to God, on the Holy Bible. This is shit I say. Swear to hell out of the Holy Bible. That's the stuff we had to do when we were kids. We actually had to hold our hands on a Bible. My mother would be like, did you really buy bubble gum with that 25 cents? Or did you put your hand on the Holy Bible? Because you'll go to the burning flames of hell if you lie on the Holy Bible. So swear to God on the Holy Bible. I swear to God, me and my daughter Madeline have maybe had a handful, I could count on one hand, arguments in her entire life. Because we know how to communicate. Now, Julia, on the other hand, she's a little bit of a Spitfire, a little Scorpio, and mommy's a little Sagittarius fire, that fire and water. Sometimes, but you know what? We haven't had an argument in years, and it's quite lovely. So ladies, I'm gonna help you communicate, negotiate, compromise, step into your greatness week by week, step by step. And if you haven't sent me a friend request yet on Facebook, please do. I love to get to know you. And that's all for now. Listen, we're going to open up the phone lines next week. Have an awesome week. Get into the platform, order your books, book your mentorship coaching, and watch what happens over the next few months. Sending you love. Bye for now. Woo! Bye for now.
You were born free, and it's time to remember who you were meant to be. You were born to rule, and it's time for you to shine all the light inside of you.